Hello enlightened viewers, and welcome to Animal World, our co-inhabitants. On today's program, we'll present part 1 of our 2-part series on the Oasis Sanctuary in Benson, Arizona, USA. Founded in 1997 by Sybil Erden, this non-profit refuge provides a permanent, stable, and loving home for more than 700 rescued exotic birds, including parrots, cockatoos, macaws, and other avian species, as well as dogs, turkeys, chickens, ducks, and swans. Ms. Erden now describes how she first became involved in rescuing our delightful feathered friends.
I was the person in the neighborhood who everybody turned to when they had problems with animals. So I was doing cat and dog rescue, and I was doing some wildlife rehab. And in the early mid-90s, I had a couple of lovebirds. That's all I had. But I decided that there were so many birds out there needing second homes, birds that were being destroyed because they were less than perfect, that I would try to do something to help them. And by this time, I had maybe 10 birds, because people were already calling me. If you have more than 2 birds, you're suddenly the bird person in the neighborhood, and you get calls from people going, oh, my son, my daughter, my aunt, my neighbor has a bird and they don't want to keep it. If we give you the cage, would you take it? And I'd go, of course. So over a period of time, I started taking in more and more birds.
By the end of the 1990s, Ms. Erden, a vegetarian, had rescued many exotic birds and was caring for them in her home in Phoenix, Arizona. She soon realized that she needed a much larger place to accommodate her ever-growing family. While pondering her options, a remarkable event occurred.
We got a telephone call from, believe it or not, lottery winners. A couple. I'm a writer, so people were reading my articles in different magazines. And they said, we've been following you in Sally Blanchard's magazine, and we'd like to help. So they helped by giving us the down payment for this land, and they gave us money for about the next 2 or 3 years to get us rolling here. We have 72 acres here. So that's how we started. And when we moved, we had almost 300 birds.
Sybil Erden says that the Oasis Sanctuary is unique because its first priority is to provide a permanent home for exotic birds with special needs.
The birds that we have here, for one reason or another, could not go anywhere else at the time that we take them. Either because it's an aggressive bird and it would be euthanized if we didn't take it, or it is a terribly plucked bird, or it only has one wing, or it has dietary issues, or whatever the special need of that bird is, it would be harder to place. Or maybe the bird's already been through too many homes. The bird's already been through 6 or 7 homes, and birds, what I call foster child mentality. You know, you get a bird as a young bird, and it wants to trust you. It has this instinctive desire to be a part of a flock, and you become its flock. And so it trusts you, and you keep it a few years, and now you don't want it anymore, and you give it to someone else, and it still wants to trust you. And so now it trusts the next person, and maybe that next person sticks it in a corner of the room and ignores it. And so now it's going, maybe I can't trust this person. And then it goes to another home. And so this goes on. Every time they trust, they're disappointed, and they become aggressive, and they become self-destructive.
Knowing that these beautiful birds are rare, sensitive, and intelligent, why do people give them up?
There's a lot of reasons. People's life circumstances change. They have to move to a smaller home or leave the country for their employment. They can't take the birds with them. Illness is a big reason, you know, elderly couples who have chronic conditions. just can't care for their animals anymore. It's just life taking a different course for those people. And again, a cockatiel living 35 years, you think about 35 years of your life and what you've been through and the changes you've been through. It can be difficult for people to keep animals or keep birds that long.
To Miss Erden, every avian life is precious, even that of the tiniest bird.
In the late 90s, I heard about one breeding facility in California that bred nothing but little parakeets, and they had 100,000 birds a year there. And they'd send them out to the pet stores for $2 a piece or whatever, and it didn't matter if they lived or died. They didn't get medical attention because they had such little financial value. And one of the problems with our society, in my opinion, is that we look at things, you know, this bird has more value because it's a $5,000 bird, and so we will spend $1,000 on medical for that bird because it's so expensive and rare. Where the little budgie that somebody was given or got for $15, well, we're not going to spend $1,000 on that bird, but it's the only life that animal has. And we're so cost-oriented and price-oriented and artificial value-oriented that we don't give each of these fabulous little lives their due. So here at the sanctuary, we don't care if it's a macaw or a budgie. They all get the best care that we can give them. We have a vet that will come and set a budgie's leg as quickly as it would set a macaw's leg. It doesn't matter to us. It is about the life of the animal and the care of that life.
African gray parrots are known for being very clever. They are found throughout much of tropical Africa and love fruits, seeds, and nuts. There are many African greys living happily at the sanctuary. The Oasis's executive director, Janet Trumbull, spoke to us about the species.
African greys are known to be the best talking parrot.
Oh.
Alex, the parrot, he passed away in 2009, I believe. At the age of 31, and Dr. Pepperberg is a research scientist who had spent 31 years working with Alex, and she demonstrated that greys have the cognitive and intelligence of a 3 to 5 year old child. But all of us who own greys at home, we really understand, because you can see that in intelligence and in their behavior. And the fact that they can actually learn to talk so well is pretty amazing. She proved that they don't just mimic, they can actually use their words in context.
So they are highly efficient, highly evolved, highly intelligent species. They're very intelligent, they're very self-aware, they have complicated language, both physical language and verbal language, and they can learn our language where we can't learn theirs. The other thing I've learned about parrots is they can see into the infrared and ultraviolet spectrums, as well as the full color gamut that we see.
Many birds also form deep, loving relationships with the mate they select, remaining true to their beloved companion for life. Philippe the macaw is one such bird.
Philippe is one of the oldest birds we have here. I mean, we have one Amazon that I know is in his 70s now, but Philippe is also in his 70s at least. I had met a gentleman online who was working for a breeder in Florida. Philippe and Priscilla were two of the first birds that this breeder, who had 1,000 breeding birds of all kinds, I mean, real exotic birds. And they were getting too old to breed. She was probably 60-ish, and Philippe was in his 50s. There was a big age difference, but he didn't want to destroy them. Normally he would destroy birds when they were no longer useful to him. But because these were his first birds, he wanted them to go somewhere, and his employee talked him into sending them to me. And Priscilla had cataracts, had arthritis. She couldn't even spread her wings anymore. Her feet were all gnarled. She was a little old lady when we got her. Her beak was overgrown. We had to keep trimming her beak. And Philippe was still a lot younger. But because she couldn't pick up her food with her feet anymore, he wouldn't. He didn't want to embarrass her. She couldn't crack nuts, so he wouldn't crack nuts. And anytime anybody came near the cage, he'd wrap his wings around her. And they've been together 25 years. We have a lot to learn about caring for our spouses from macaws. They were the most incredible couple. Priscilla died in early 2001, and he grieved. I mean, he grieved. It took 2 weeks before he'd even venture out, and then he'd sit on top of his cage and go back in. Sit on top. Finally, he started making friends with some of the other single males.
Running the Oasis requires the assistance of several staff members and a host of volunteers. Miss Erden is grateful to all the wonderful people who graciously share their time and talents in caring for the 700 birds at the sanctuary.
I want to thank my staff here. I mean, the people that work here are extraordinary. It takes a very, very special type of person to do this every day. And without people moving this forward, it would die. There's going to be a need for this sort of a facility. And without the people, my board of directors and the staff, it wouldn't happen. If you come to the United States and if you love birds, get in touch with Julie or Janet here and come stay for a few days and work with everybody and really get to know something about the birds here. We have a volunteer program. We'd love to have people from everywhere come out. It'll be the hardest job you've ever loved. And so we'd love to see that. Maybe you'll learn something and be able to take it back to wherever you come from and do something for birds there.
For taking wonderful and wholehearted care of vulnerable, exotic birds, Supreme Master Ching Hai is honoring the Oasis Sanctuary and Sybil Erden with the Shining World Compassion Award and $10,000 US with gratitude and all love for the noble work. Bravo, Sybil Erden, for your devoted, inspiring work helping our avian companions and for sharing your beautiful sanctuary with our global audience. Truly the birds there are blessed to be under your care. For more information on the Oasis Sanctuary, please visit www.the-oasis.org. Loyal viewers, thank you for your company today on our program. Please join us again tomorrow on Animal World, our co-inhabitants, for the concluding episode of our series. May we always be under God's protective wings.
For more details, please visit www.suprememastertv.com/AW.
A mind of the caliber of mine cannot derive its nutriment from cows. George Bernard Shaw, 1925, Nobel Laureate for Literature, vegetarian.
Many brilliant Nobel laureates were ethical vegetarians. Their dedicated pursuits of the mind were grounded in well-developed principles, strong personal philosophies which acknowledged the sentience of animals and the importance of making sustainable choices as a society.
It's much more efficient and energy efficient to have a vegetarian lifestyle. I personally have been a vegetarian all my life, and I don't see any reason to change.
As long as people will shed the blood of innocent creatures, there can be no peace, no liberty, no harmony between people. Slaughter and justice cannot dwell together. Isaac Bashevis Singer, 1978, Nobel laureate for literature, vegetarian.
Until he extends the circle of his compassion to all living things, man will not himself find peace. Albert Schweitzer, 1952 Nobel laureate for peace, vegetarian.
Moving towards much lower consumption of meat would be the interests of human beings, and it certainly would be in the interests of the planet. So I would like to appeal to you to consider this carefully, and you would find that when you make such a move, you would be healthier, you would feel much better, and so would the planet.
Vegetarian food leaves a deep impression on our nature. If the whole world adopts vegetarianism, it can change the destiny of humankind. Albert Einstein, 1921 Nobel laureate for physics, vegetarian.
Be veg, go green, save the planet.
Hello, perceptive viewers, and welcome to Animal World, our co-inhabitants. On today's program, we'll present the concluding episode in our two-part series on the Oasis Sanctuary in Benson, Arizona, USA, a non-profit refuge founded in 1997 by Sybil Erden, a vegetarian, that provides a permanent, loving home for more than 700 rescued exotic birds, including parrots, cockatoos, macaws, and other avian species, as well as dogs, turkeys, chickens, ducks, and swans. Many of these fine birds have special needs as they are disabled or were previously abused or neglected. Now, let's meet Executive Director of Administration, Janet Trumbull, who will give us a tour and introduce us to some of its fascinating residents.
Many years ago, I adopted a little budgie, and that little bird amazed me. I knew nothing about birds, and his intelligence just piqued my interest. So I started learning more and more about birds, and then I bought a little cockatiel, and over the years just started owning larger species. And I started supporting the Oasis in the mid-90s because of my interest in birds. You know, I felt they were doing some good work and helping birds that needed help. And eventually came down to see the facility, and here I am, 4.5 years later, working here with the birds.
The first stop on our tour is the area where the food is prepared for the sanctuary's precious residents.
This area here is what we call staging. We have 700 birds at the Oasis today, and that means that we have a lot of food and water bowls that need to be cleaned, and we clean them daily. You can see on the counter here a large amount of bowls. Every single food and water bowl is brought into the staging area to be cleaned every day. So there's a hand process where we're washing them in a soapy water, and then this is a bleach rinse here, so we disinfect with a bleach rinse, and then rinsed again and refilled with new food that goes back out to the birds. In total, we have about 500 food and water bowls that we clean every single day. takes us about 4.5 hours with 5 or 6 people to do this process every morning. And this is our priority every day, to get the birds their fresh food and water. We feed a seed and pellet mix. Over here in these bins behind you are a variety of our everyday foods that the birds get. They get fresh produce. We mix a fresh vegetable and fruit salad for them. We cook pasta and put that in there. And today happens to be treat day, so they don't get the fruit, but they get nuts and millet and maybe a cracker and some cereal, things like that. So just a little bit of variety to their diet. So this is the fresh salad that I feed them 5 days a week.
The Oasis Sanctuary's mission is to rescue exotic birds who would not otherwise be adopted, some of whom are quite elderly and others permanently disabled. Still, others have behavioral problems, such as plucking out their own feathers due to years of neglect and/or abuse. Charlene and BJ are 2 such birds.
Charlene is a Congo African gray, and she will allow her feathers to grow in to some extent, and then we'll pluck them out. So she's pretty plucked right now, but she's very happy. Hi, B-Man. Hi, B-Man. This is BJ. BJ is a Moluccan cockatoo. You can see that he's in a collar and wears a sweater because he is a very severe mutilator. He had a very bad start to life. He was purchased as a beloved family pet, and from what we know, initially, he was loved, he was well taken care of. But at some point, the family decided they didn't want to deal with BJ anymore, so they stuck him in a very small cage, a parakeet-sized cage. So a parakeet, you know, is 3 inches long. He had no toys. He had horrible seed diet only, a very small perch to sit on. When he arrived here, he actually had to be cut out of the cage. That's how small the cage was. He didn't fit through the door. So while he was spending 14 years in this cage with no interaction and no toys, he decided to start chewing on his feathers, which turned into mutilating. When he came to us, he had a huge hole in his chest where you could actually see muscle. He was in pretty poor shape, so he's had some skin grafts and has had a lot of treatment. And today he's much happier. He's not as human-phobic as he was when he arrived, but we do have to keep him collared and keep him wrapped so he cannot access his skin, because he will continue to mutilate himself. He's pretty good for him.
Exotic birds have very long lifespans, some living as long as humans.
Timmy was found walking down a beach. I believe it was in South Carolina, and a couple rescued him. They didn't know much about birds, but they had friends that owned Charlene at the time, and so they called the friends and said, "We have this little parrot. Can you help?" And so they took him in, and Timmy and Charlene bonded, and ultimately they came here because the couple couldn't care for them anymore. But an African gray, a large Congo, can live 50 or 60 years if they remain in good health. The larger the bird, the longer their lifespan. A macaw could easily live 60 or 70 years. The large cockatoos, 80 years is not uncommon. Philippe is starting to show his age. He has some health problems now. He's got kidney disease and cataract. He's medicated for the kidney and arthritis issues daily. This pair up here is Brutus. She's a scarlet macaw, and she's in her 40s. Her son is Doc. He's in the back, and he's a hybrid macaw. He's a scarlet and blue and gold hybrid. He actually has some handicaps. You can see that his feet and legs are very deformed, and he has a pretty bad case of scoliosis in his upper spine. So he is a little more limited on his movement, but not much. I mean, he acts just like any other bird. He can climb, they get on the ground and walk around, and he's very active. And she is, of course, very protective of him.
Now, you said that you don't clip any of their wings. Do you see them flying around here much?
Yes, there are birds that will just take off and fly. Some of the birds never learn how to fly. We've domesticated these animals, and what has happened is humans take them from their parents at a very young age, put them in a little cardboard box, and feed them by hand, and then sell them. And the birds never fledge. They never learn from their parents how to fly. So when we get them 15 or 20 years later, they may have the ability to fly. They may have their flight feathers, but since they never learned to fly, they just don't even try. And if we give them the opportunity, a lot of times they fail because they're not strong enough, they don't have the control. So you can see like Brutus has flight feathers, but she never flies. And macaws are known for walking. They like to just get down and walk. They don't fly much. We have some birds out there that are wonderful flyers, but many of them will climb to be 100 feet to get to the other end instead of flying there, because that's what they enjoy doing.
Birds often act as our teachers, helping us learn important lessons about life. Ms. Trumbull now discusses some of the things that birds at the Oasis have taught her.
Gosh, patience, lots of patience, and commitment with their long life and their needs. You have to be very dedicated to these animals if you want to give them a wonderful life. I have younger birds at home. I think my oldest is about 28 now. He's an African gray, and so I'm going to have these birds probably the rest of my life, and I'll have to ensure that they have care when I'm gone. Some of them will probably outlive me. So I think just learning how to live your life and being dedicated is difficult, and to make it work, you really have to learn how to make your life fit for the birds. And it's hard, and that's why we have a lot of birds here, because people do try to make it work, and something changes and it just isn't possible for them any longer to keep their pets. I have also learned a lot about diet. I wasn't a really great eater until I got my birds, and because I feed my birds such healthy food, I tend to eat a little better myself, which is good. I'm chopping fruits and vegetables for them every morning, which I pick on, and I make myself a lot more salads than I would otherwise, probably. But nutritionally, their needs are very unique, and so I've had to learn for them, and it's helped me personally as well.
The Oasis Sanctuary is often asked to take in more birds, but they currently must decline almost all requests because they're operating at full capacity. However, plans are being made to improve and expand the facilities.
We actually have in the works a design for a new bird building which will have a state-of-the-art kitchen. This was a porch, and so you can see all the counters and sinks were, secondhand items that were picked up. So we are definitely in need of better equipment. We'd love to have commercial dishwashers to help the process speed up.
For taking wonderful and wholehearted care of vulnerable exotic birds, Supreme Master Ching Hai is honoring the Oasis Sanctuary and Sybil Erden with the Shining World Compassion Award and $10,000 US with gratitude and all love for the noble work. May heaven bless you, President and Founder Sybil Erden, Executive Director Janet Trumbull, and all the other wonderful staff members at the Oasis Sanctuary for your devoted work providing a loving, permanent home for exotic birds in need. Your dedication is truly exemplary, and may all the bird residents continue to enjoy safety and comfort at the sanctuary. For more information on the Oasis Sanctuary, please visit www.the-oasis.org. Considerate viewers, thank you for joining us today on Animal World, our co-inhabitants. May all beings on Earth enjoy long lives of dignity and freedom.
For more details, please visit www.suprememastertv.com/AW.